Doff and Steve Poikinen. So,
hold on, there's no audio.
Okay.
Okay, try again.
All right. Hey, everyone. Hopefully you can hear me this time, and welcome to the free Assange online vigil series. My name is Taylor Hudak, and I'm joined by my co-hosts, Andrew Smith, Christy Doff, and Steve Poikinen. So for today, we will be talking about Julian's latest court hearing and also what we can expect moving forward, as well as some other news touching on some of the very important WikiLeaks drops that we
Yeah, we don't have audio. What the fuck?
experienced for the past few years.
Wait, where don't you have audio?
But before we get to all of that,
Do we? Is it coming through?
I think we're on my end. I think we have audio. I mean, I think we're broadcasting live over here.
we see in the chat. Can we ask that maybe?
I mean, in my chat, guys, let me know. Is there an audio issue? I don't think there is, guys.
Okay, proceed. Sorry.
Typically, we get this intro perfectly, but for some stats for you guys, as for Julian Assange, today is 3,326 days of his unlawful and arbitrary detention and 279 days since his brutal arrest outside of the Ecuadorian embassy in London. And as for Chelsea Manning, today is day 308 days that she has been in jail, and she is now up to $199,000 in fines. That means tomorrow she will be up to $200,000 in fines. Remember, every single day she is being fined $1,000. So keep these stats in mind. But before we get to our news section of the evening, and before I introduce or open it up to the panel, I want to introduce our guest of the evening. He's a returning guest and good friend of the vigils, Jason Burmis. Jason is also allowing us to stream or collaborating with us and streaming on his channel as well. Jason, of course, is an activist, content creator, and documentary filmmaker. Jason, how are you doing?
I'm doing good, and I want to let my audience know to go to actionforassange.com to check these guys out. Same thing on YouTube. After I leave the show, they keep streaming, and they are very much trying to get to their goal of going to the extradition hearings in London, in D.C. We got them over 2,000 a couple weeks ago. Can we get them over 3, guys? I mean, this is real activism. Let's give to these guys. So, Taylor, I just want to say you guys are doing great work.
Hey,
We still don't have audio on our channel.
Okay, I'll get there. I was actually just sent a message about that. We don't have any audio on our channel. However, as we're fixing that, we are able to kind of work it out on Jason's channel right now. So I'm just going to keep this thing going. What would we like to touch on first? I know we had some, obviously there was a debate last night. There were 6 people. I know that my co-host, Steve Poikinen, had quite the set of interesting tweets last night. If you do not follow Steve, you absolutely should, because just about everything he was tweeting out was making me laugh. He had some.
Oh, I got like 20 or 30 good jokes in last night, and I think they're keepers too. There's a few of them that are absolutely keepers. I've never felt like I hated myself enough to sit through the debate and live tweet it, but I gave it a shot and did several bleached showers later. I'm starting to feel a little bit more human again.
I think we dropped, guys, at least on our channel.
I'm working on getting the audio thing figured out. I don't know what is going on.
Okay.
Well, guys, while we wait, why don't we play this clip that everybody's talking about where Bernie snubs Warren at the end, and they've enhanced the audio so the audience can hear that, and then hopefully you guys will have your audio up. And by the way, I'm joined by not only Taylor Hudak, but Christy Doff, Steve Poikinen, and Andrew Smith. And Steve is also a recurring guest from Slow News Day. Let's play the audio of this clip. Here we go.
We're saying. Here it is.
I think you called me a liar on national TV.
What?
I think you called me a liar on national TV.
Let's not do it right now. You want to have that discussion, we'll have that discussion. You called me, you told me. All right, let's not do it now.
I don't want to get in the middle of it. I just want to say hi, Bernie.
Yeah, good.
Oh, I love how Steyer just kind of jumps right in there. So, There it is. There's the enhanced audio. I mean, I don't think Grandma Oatmeal has a fucking shot in hell. I never thought she did. I think they're all kind of cowards for not weighing in on the Assange issue. This is the first one I didn't watch because both Yang and Tulsi, who are the most relevant candidates to me, even though I disagree with both of them on a lot of things, weren't even there. I don't know what you guys' take on that is.
You know what, Jason? I want to get this out because it is super frustrating to me. And I know Christy is going to have some thoughts as well on this because we've spoken about this woman card being used so frequently. It is absolutely ridiculous. And I'm really sick of gender being used as a way to kind of destroy other candidates. I thought we were moved past this. Unfortunately, we are not. And because we have Elizabeth Warren making up things about Bernie Sanders. And of course, we know this is a lie. There's no disputing that. Of course, there were many people who weren't there during that exchange, but let's look at who has a history of lying. She does. She has a history of lying. And if you look at Bernie's record, he has stood up for women's rights time and time again. So I think what she did was extremely reckless, and I think it's shameful. And I think that it's really disturbing that people will use gender as a way to move themselves up in the race. We saw Hillary Clinton do this as well when she cited sexism for her reason for losing in 2016. This is so ridiculous. And I think this needs to be condemned on all levels. And as a woman, I think that we need to stand up and say this if we feel this way, because I feel like a lot of men are afraid to say this with fear of being called a misogynist. And I think it's really unfair that men are being, shamed for being misogynist when they're not, as Warren did with Bernie. And Christy, I'm sure you have some opinions on this as well.
Yeah, I mean, the people that are voting for Elizabeth Warren in the Iowa caucus or the New Hampshire primary really are ignoring a long history of lies from her. I mean, we can delve into the whole Native American thing if we want to, but I feel like the population she's appealing to here in Iowa don't want to talk about the backhanded racism that has been used by Elizabeth Warren to excel her career. And now we're playing the sex card with Bernie. Conveniently, less than 3 weeks before the Iowa caucus. I'm not sure if it's because Elizabeth Warren is she's losing her surge in Iowa, and this was some sort of tactic. But if this conversation happened, however many months ago, almost a year ago, why is it just now being brought up? Why is this now being used against Bernie? And, we have footage of Bernie from, 1988, 1989, talking about how anybody could be president, including women. And I really don't like Elizabeth Warren. She's like Diet Hillary to me. And she's trying to play the Hillary Clinton game right now with Bernie. And now we're playing the sex card. And yeah, you feel like this is something that would happen in the GOP race, but not the Democrats. But of course, I mean, you could watch this debate and essentially think you're watching the GOP debating. It's so fucking boring. And yeah, now, we had to have this whole, CNN reported it, and when Bernie completely denied it, they still went asking Warren as if it was a fact that this happened. And then she didn't even actually acknowledge that question. She turned it into women on the stage and what women have done. And, if Tulsi was on that stage, would she have been so prideful about the women up there? It seems that like the women running in the DNC don't want to include Tulsi in their women club, and they haven't been including her all along. So I don't know. I really fucking hate Elizabeth Warren. She's awful.
Let me say this. They've been promoting her as a top tier candidate from the beginning. They promoted Biden as a top tier candidate from the beginning. And they've promoted Buttigieg as a top tier candidate and a rising one from the beginning. Everybody else up there is just basically establishment talking points filler and always has been. They are realizing that Joe Biden, number one, cannot win an election, and they're trying to get this whole impeachment thing as a political rival. He's not getting the nomination. All right, he's literally going senile in front of everybody. Period. He is. If you watch any of his extended Q&As, any of his extended appearances, he can't talk like a human being. He's talking like a decrepit old man that makes Reagan look scholarly in the throes of his dementia. That's what he looks like. So he's not going to win.
Absolutely.
All right. Yeah, go ahead.
I know you didn't watch the debate last night, but what Christie was referring to was there was a moment where the CNN moderator, who like kind of looks like a Kardashian, I have no idea what her name is, she grills Bernie Sanders on this. Did you say this shit? Did you write this? Is this how it happened? Twice. Yeah, Bernie's like, no, I never said this at all. And then she immediately pivots. Senator Warren, how did you feel when Bernie Sanders said this to you?
Mm-hmm.
Like not even pretending to be any kind of impartial, but just gleefully setting the man up. And look, I gotta say this. I'm getting tired of being put in a position where I have to defend Bernie Sanders.
Exactly.
I'm
and
not.
Can you just say how boring the moderators were last night? I mean, we had two women moderators that couldn't have shown an ounce of enthusiasm if they were paid to. And I think they were probably getting paid something to be there. And I think the most emotion they showed was when they tried to grill Bernie on this. And it was just really all around terrible. I felt like it was just an SNL skit.
And then Wolf Blitzer is like, so hey, tell me how soon you will, violate the Constitution and circumvent Congress to go blow up brown people. Like that was one of his questions. Wolf Blitzer, by the way, if you don't know, was one of the head lobbyists at AIPAC before getting the job at CNN.
And Wolf Blitzer once asked, I think it was Ron Paul, you can find the clip, I'm sure, well, if we stop doing these wars, won't there be a big hit on the economy because we can't sell them the missiles? Won't the economy falter if we get out of the Middle East? He actually said the impact of us bombing innocent brown people might hurt our economy. That's a big problem. I mean, that's the mindset of these people. And I just feel like right now, out of all of them, Bernie Sanders is the most mainline in people's eyes, and they don't want him to get the nomination. I think that's where the smears come in. But I'm sorry, there's just no way you're going to sell Elizabeth Warren. She's unsellable. Every time I see her, all I see is a big thing of Quaker Oats with her face on it. That's it. That's all I can say. I can't see. I mean, she's so bland. You guys talk about how boring these things are. I mean, I've sat through every single other one and taken notes, and it's few and far between that real issues are being talked about. But the bottom line is you've got all these candidates that refuse to talk about the OPCW. The only one that's even talked about it is Tulsi Gabbard on Door's show, right? I mean, that's incredible. We have a media that forget about someone at CNN. How about any other network than fucking Fox, which should scare the shit out of everybody? That Fox News and Tucker Carlson are the exclusive on the OPCW. And I had Robbie Martin on my show today from Media Roots. He and his sister, Abby Martin, obviously do that show. And we discussed the fact that BuzzFeed has a headline about how Tucker Carlson may have saved us from war with Iran because of one of his op-eds on Fox News and Trump watching it. I mean, that's scary on so many levels that it took a half an hour to digest, Steve.
Well, and it's not without merit, that idea that it's frightening on all conceivable levels that Donald Trump is getting his foreign policy bona fides from Tucker Carlson's show. It's I say frequently that we live in a fucking cartoon, and as we barrel towards these primaries, I feel like I'm borne out right almost on the daily. It vexes me not just to have to come out and constantly defend Bernie Sanders over what's happening to him again in 2020, the same way it did in 2016. I'm glad that we're kind of setting up the meat and potatoes of the show right now, because we're going to get into the DNC leaks as a reminder to the people who are watching right now. But there are people legitimately walking around right now, people that are considered the left or people that are considered to be part of the truth community that are acting like WikiLeaks never existed, that are acting like 2016 never happened. And I feel like the shit that Warren just pulled, because Christie's right, 3 weeks before the primary, this was calculated, especially when the story is a couple of years old now. That we need to refresh our memories at just how far the DNC will go to make sure that their pet politician gets to lose to Donald Trump.
Oh, I don't know, man.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, no,
I'm,
no,
I'm
I
trying
know
to
you
get
guys
everything
are.
back up and running. But the entire thing with the political process that bothers me, and it's something that we'll get into when we actually get into the leaks, is the fact that the whole thing, like start to finish, full stop, every article, every poll is in a rigged and calculated fashion. So ultimately, what it comes down to, even the arguments and the debates that we have to have about Bernie Sanders and the way that we have to frame an argument to defend him, is ultimately still just lending credence to the lie of American democracy, at least the way that it exists in its current stage. So I think that that's always important to call out too, is that our elections are a joke.
Well, and
So above and beyond that.
Can we talk about the lack of intellectual diversity on that stage? And it's so bad that now we're having to resort to these sex smears, one candidate versus another. I mean, is this showing that Elizabeth Warren can't stand up to somebody like Bernie? I mean, she's been trying to pull in this establishment feel, and she's trying to do this like Bernie light. She is appealing to a lot of people who voted for Hillary, maybe were Bernie initially, but then voted for Hillary. She's their new, female icon right now. And obviously, we're finding that the issues, her ideas, her stances aren't enough to hold up. So now we've got to play these games. And how sad is it that it's 2020? We're talking about progressive candidates who are doing this shit, that are playing these games with each other. We're not talking about how we're going to help the American people. We're not talking about how we're going to make lives better. We are on a very superficial level, but really the dirt is being slung over these fictitious conversations, whether they happened or not. And we're trying to take Bernie down again this way. I'm kind of stunned that the DNC still has not learned their lesson and we're still playing these games. I mean, I am, but I'm not. It's just, they're never going to learn. They're never really going to be the party of the people again. And this is why we have people like Tulsi Gabbard that are trying to change it from the inside, because they've essentially just turned into the GOP, where they're just playing these stupid piddly games, and nobody really fucking cares about the American people right now. And it's very upsetting. I think it's going to be really interesting at the Iowa caucus, because I know there's a lot of Warren people here. It's going to be really interesting to see what happens to her here. I don't know if everybody will see the light, but I sure damn hope so.
What's interesting about the caucuses in Iowa this year is that there's an app that people are going to use. The app is private proprietary software that the DNC has commissioned for this caucus. This will turn into another CrowdStrike when it turns out that the caucus numbers are vastly more skewed than what the polls were saying going into.
So maybe it would be a good time now. I don't know if we've really broken down on this show about what the Iowa caucus is and how it is not the same as a primary. Do you guys want me to get into that a little bit?
Yeah, go for it.
So the Iowa caucus is done differently depending on whether it's Republican or Democrat. They do it two different ways. Republicans, everybody comes and does a stump speech for their candidate, and then they vote by a paper ballot. So it's a private voting. Nobody knows who you're voting for. Democrats do it differently. I believe they still get the same kind of stumping speech, but then you physically move in the room to go physically vote for your candidate. And then there's 2 rounds to find the most viable candidates. They have to get, I believe, above 15% of the total in the precinct. So once everybody's voted once, then the most viable candidates get to harass essentially the non-viable candidates to join them. Two non-viable groups of candidates can converge into making for one. And then I believe there is a second round of this as well. So I mean, I have personally not been involved in the Democrat side. I've only caucused for Ron Paul. I'm really curious to see this because I have heard stories of this taking a much longer time than it's supposed to. And I've heard stories of basically it's just people screaming and harassing each other to join in on, you know, to make a candidate viable and to get it done and over with. So this is really I mean, this will be different in every precinct, depending on who is most popular there, depending on the demographic of people, what they're most focused on. But it's really kind of like harassing your neighbor and you know, making it into, I don't know, it's a very different process than the primaries are. So that's why I always say, like, this could get really interesting, and there could be really interesting stories that come out of Iowa depending on how this goes down, and especially if we're pitting this Warren versus Bernie so close to it, will that get really ugly? I know there's some other drama with Bernie's people in Iowa too, so it could be an interesting night.
Yeah, can we agree Bernie's not getting the nomination? I mean, I don't know what you guys think, but I'm just letting you listen. I have big dreams, right? Like I try to go full force. I try to bring as much truth forward as possible. You know, especially with this McGregor thing, trying to, you know, get that out and not let this fight happen. There's zero chance Bernie Sanders gets the nomination. I'm just saying right now, Bernie Sanders could probably at least maybe beat Trump, but as far as people that they have enough establishment talking points, it's literally just Biden, Warren, and Buttigieg at this point, right? That's it. That's all they have.
So here's the only way I think that Sanders can actually win the nomination. And that is, sorry, this light's terrible. And that is if he makes a deal essentially with the devil, not to prosecute war criminals, not to end the military-industrial complex, but all he gets to do is give people health care ran by Nancy Pelosi, continue the war machine, continue the propaganda machines, continue the devastation of academia, continue the devastation to the American infrastructure. But
you know what? He's sold out before. He's sold out before, and he still won't speak up on Assange. And by the way, if he supports what's happening in New York's bail reform nationally, which is being reported, I actually saw his tweet, that's disastrous. You guys got to see my my videos on this bail reform thing in New York. It's unbelievable. Listen, I just want to let everybody know, I'm not near the city. You know what I'm saying? I'm in like small town, little town America, and what I'm seeing around me is utterly crazy. So Bernie's wrong on that. He's going to be easily picked apart on that issue if he thinks that New York's bail reform. I mean, guys, it's been up 2 weeks. There's a Facebook group with 125, 150K. The horror stories are tremendous. Number two, he couldn't stand up in 2016, right? And if Bernie cuts that deal, how much time does he have? He's an old man. He's already had a heart attack. I don't know if you've seen the funny ass thing of him trying to box the thing and getting smacked in the head with it. I'm talking facts. And I mean, listen, he's sharp mentally, but I think Pete Buttigieg actually lines up better against Trump. I think they know that, by the way. And I think that's why they're pushing him. I think they all know that Warren doesn't. And I'm telling you right now, and maybe I'm totally crazy on this, I am not ruling out Hillary Clinton. You know, I think Hillary Clinton's the ace. I think the impeachment.
I saw Pete in person a couple weekends ago, and he is really, and he even said this in debate, he's really trying to appeal to that middle. He's really trying to appeal to conservatives. He sounds like a junior Obama already. Yeah, you can kind of see how the establishment has molded him into this like young, upcoming hip guy, just the way they did with Obama. And yeah, I wouldn't discount him. I know he's doing pretty well in Iowa. But then I feel like Tom Steyer is sort of this like anti-Trump thing going on that like
he's had that forever though, Christy. He's had commercials since he was elected. Be like
this weird sleeper candidate. I'm just saying.
There's no chance.
Be really interesting.
Steyer, listen, Steyer couldn't sell himself to the American people on morning television, on sports television.
He's been pumping a lot of money into Iowa since probably 2017. So I don't think he'll win.
So is
Iowa by
John
any means.
Delaney. That guy's still running for
John
president.
Delaney
No
is
one
doing
knows
so
it,
many
but he
events
is.
here. Like I looked at the calendar today, and it's just nonstop John Delaney events for the next 2 weeks. Like, because I'm trying to figure out like who's left, who's coming back to Iowa before the caucus. And
Delaney
John
sounded
Delaney's
less
doing a
insane
lot
than
of
most
work
of them.
here.
I'll give Delaney that. Like when I was covering it, the only thing I really hated Delaney on is again this pro-war, neoliberal, neocon, stance. One, and then his carbon credit system. All that stuff. I mean, he was basically baseline on that. Otherwise, he was talking real about the economy. I actually like Delaney a lot more than Amy Klobuchar, obviously another establishment puppet. I mean, with Booker out, with Williamson out, and with Yang and Tulsi Gabbard being at least marginalized to the crowd that still watches television, I just don't know who's going to even be in the running in 2 months. So why not Hillary Clinton?
So
Right.
that's a fact. Just I was having that conversation just yesterday about the possibility of Hillary Clinton entering after South Carolina because she could. Because here's the thing, Jason, the Democrats, the DNC, they don't need 51% of the vote. Bernie Sanders needs 51% of the vote at the convention. He needs a majority of voters. He needs a majority of delegates. As long as there are candidates that are getting 15% or more of that vote, they can then roll over and bundle their delegates with whichever empty suit warmonger, whether it's pink Hillary or brunette Hillary or fake native Hillary or collapsing into dementia Joe Biden. Right? So it's strategic on their part to kind of throw everyone against the wall and see if somebody sticks, because they know that they can always bundle those delegates and go for a contested convention. Tom Perez walked out of the Unity Conference in 2017, literally saying, we're going to field more candidates than the GOP did in 2016. Oh, and by the way, fun fact, the DNC hasn't had a contested convention since 1972. How weird would it be if all these candidates that we're fielding wound up creating the conditions for a contested convention?
Oh, guys, I guess I gotta throw this in before we get to the emails, especially because the emails start this whole fiasco of interference and impeachment, and here we are today. I didn't watch all of it, but I watched Nadler introduce it. I watched the opposition, and then I watched Schiff, and obviously the articles of impeachment are now going to the Senate after a month holdup time after it was so urgent. Now, here's how I feel about this, and I don't think anyone's really talking about it. I think that they're going to now try to stretch out the legal ramifications of the entire thing, point by point, person by person, so that the actual impeachment trial in the Senate does not even begin for possibly 4 to 7 months. If that's the case, all of a sudden this election is a totally different thing, because what if the Democrats can get a hold of the Senate and by the time they vote on it, it's flipped? Who knows? Maybe it's another 12 months. This whole process has been so crazy, and because I don't think they have a candidate on that side other than Bernie Sanders, who has that cult of personality that could beat Trump that they want in there, what else are their options? Pete Buttigieg, superhero. Hillary Clinton comes in. Elizabeth fucking Warren, that's not an option. I'm just sorry. There's no way she gets voted in as president. Tell me I'm missing something, guys.
Well, there's something, just real quick, there's something else to that. We just delivered the articles of impeachment today, and that is it pulls Bernie off the campaign trail. Granted, it does the same for Elizabeth Warren, but we've seen where she's at nationally polling. But they're going to keep Bernie from doing events by having him have to be in the Senate every single day that they're running through these articles of impeachment. Go ahead, Christy.
Oh, so I was just going to say, so Jason's theory is maybe that they're holding this impeachment over into, so it spills over into after the election. That way, if Trump does win, they still have this kind of this card they can play because they don't have a candidate that's strong enough to beat him.
I mean, I
Could
look
you
at it.
even continue an impeachment through a presidential election?
I mean,
Like once
how could they
he's
not?
reelected, isn't
Listen, look at Rand Paul. Rand Paul right now is introducing articles to just try to get Hunter Biden to be a witness in this whole fiasco. Well, if Hunter Biden is going to be a witness in this fiasco, I would assume the prosecutor that got fired because his father was sitting there in front of the Council on Foreign Relations could also be called. So there'll be all sorts of legal ramifications on whether actual foreign entities and foreign ambassadors, dignitaries, government officials are able to come over and be involved in our impeachment process. You got to remember, they impeached this guy on a fucking made up thing, two of them, but the second one being obstruction of Congress. I mean, they couldn't even get him on obstruction of justice with their Russiagate fiasco. They went with obstruction of Congress. We're in new territory. That's how I feel about it. But I'm the conspiracy guy, guys. By the way, thumbs this up on my
Oh, no. I am because of the Daily Beast, right?
Oh, that's you. That's right, Steve. We did that one earlier this week.
Yeah, and then Tim Pool's bitch ass like sat there and likened me to QAnon for about 5 straight minutes before immediately transitioning to why he had to flee Venezuela when he was trying to cover it because everybody thought he was an intelligence asset there. It's been a fun week, man. It has. I gotta say, it's been an interesting week.
So with that being said, do you want to transition into these emails? You want me to bring up this this Gateway Pundit, which has kind of a point by point of what some of the DNC emails actually revealed right there. I mean, this is a list, and God bless the internet and God bless WikiLeaks, but you just click on them, and guess what? You get to see the actual email, Andrew. 2020, it's here. You can see corruption firsthand. You don't have to go to a media spin source. And the guy that kind of facilitated this happens to be in a prison being tortured 23 hours a day and not able to see his legal team and maybe extradited to this country illegally.
So yeah, a couple of things I want to start with pointing out are the first 3 ones involving the media here. It's the DNC requesting a poll of an MSNBC commentator segment, DNC controlling the narrative with time-release stories, and DNC creating false Trump information and releasing it with Reuters. Because that really kind of sums up the situation for what's going on here more so than most others. And so if we could get those up, we can kind of dig through them to see what it'll actually pull up so we can go through it line by line here.
So you want to do the Reuters one first, and what was the other one?
The Reuters one, and then the DNC requesting to pull an MSNBC commentary segment.
And then the poll one. Just give me 1 second. Just keep talking. I'll have it up in a second.
Yeah. So basically, once you get into it, it says we can pull the commentary segment right now on MSNBC, talking about the DNC and the relationship between DNC and the Clinton campaign. I will, with rushed transcript, please, once it's wrapped up. And that was the Deputy National Press Director speaking to the Communications Director of the DNC about literally just contacting a news organization to pull a story that they didn't like. The other one here is an interview request. That's the title of it. And this is the one where they're talking about essentially creating the false story around Donald Trump's campaign with Reuters. So the corruption's literally just right out in the open. Everything that's happening and playing out on the DNC stage is just as scripted as it was when Donna Brazile was passing debate questions over. So I just think that that's the most important thing to try to point out here to people is even with the whole who's right, who's wrong, what actually happened, the larger thing to remember is that this entire process is rigged and controlled by the oligarchs that want us to be talking about it in a specific and framed way.
Well, I absolutely agree with you, man. And it shows also the controlled access that the press does, the pay to play, and the coordination. You know, I mean, you talk about Donna Brazile. You know, I wish that she would talk about these issues more. And what do you think about that? You know, Donna Brazile comes out. She obviously dedicates her book to Seth Rich in a moment of, I think, fear. But then after the fact, man, it's like business as usual. I've got a job in the media elsewhere. Everything's hunky-dory. Why not, own up to the fact that this is dangerous and shine a light on that very important issue? And I think that's what's really wrong with any of these people in the mainstream press that have that, what appears to be come to God moment. Like when Keith Olbermann had that come to God moment that there weren't weapons of mass destruction. But then all of a sudden, it's the Obama administration and everything's fucking hunky-dory. In Syria, we got to be there. And then you look at like now, Tucker Carlson keeps having these come to God moments where he's the only one talking about WikiLeaks and the OPCW. But is he going to turn our backs on us if Hillary, or not Hillary? I don't know. I just can't fucking trust anybody, Andrew.
And that's the worst part, is it's all designed for us to just be misinformed and to be arguing. And that's why sources and international bodies like WikiLeaks are so important, because they give us the like real and accurate information about what's going on. So using them as like the starting point while having political conversations is just so vital, because you see all these articles being made by all these different people countering what happened at the debate and all that, but none of them are talking about how the DNC will just openly rig a campaign and then pretend like nothing happened and blame it on a foreign power and create this entire cycle of censorship simply because WikiLeaks released their own words and they're embarrassed by them.
Well, I think this is a good moment to endorse your GoFundMe, because I'm going to have to get out of here shortly. You guys are trying to go to not only D.C. but London during these extradition hearings. You are about $2,000 shy of your goal. Obviously, it is not cheap for travel there, but seeing as you guys are really the only ones in the country consistently reporting on this issue along with Dak Rillo, how can people support you not only through the GoFundMe, but other means, Andrew?
So the biggest thing, the GoFundMe is our only way to support us, and that's to help get us to help get Taylor and Steve to London to cover Julian's extradition hearing live outside of Belmarsh, and to help get Christy and I to DC for the week with all of the protests that we have planned and all the different groups that we're organizing with. If you don't want to donate to us, it's okay. I won't be mad at you. Donate to the Courage Foundation. Donate to Chelsea Manning directly. She's being fined $1,000 a day right now. Or just buy shirts. Go on the WikiLeaks shop. And if that's how you want to make your contribution so you get something back, that's never a bad way to do it either.
And if you don't want to donate, at least share our GoFundMe on social media. It helps to get it more exposure. One of the things we've been talking about for DC is to potentially get one of the trucks that has the big Julian Assange and Chelsea Manning sign on, if we can get the money to. So, I mean, not only is this going to pay for lodging, our airplane tickets, but we would like to use the money to help with these protests. And with that, paper banners and printing flyers. And yeah, if we can get the Julian Mobile there, that would be an amazing feat too. And, Taylor and Steve are trying to go to London, and London isn't cheap either to fly from the US. And so we are all doing this voluntarily on our own time. And so we want to be very transparent with you how we use the money. But we do need your help too.
And I want to remind everybody
from December till we leave in February, all of the super chats that Slow News Day gets will be going towards this too. So there's another way you can contribute. Yes, YouTube takes a cut. But if you have qualms about donating to GoFundMe or whatever, and you're hanging out in my chat, you throw a super chat at it, and that will go to the GoFundMe as well.
Yeah, and thank you so much for that, Steve. I appreciate that. Jason, you said you have to go. Thank you so much for joining us. I also want to point out, I don't think we had an opportunity to show it this evening, but the Convo Couch, our friends at the Convo Couch, Fiorella and Pasta, have really been making an effort to ask candidates about Julian Assange and to cover this issue. And I'm really grateful for their really working hard to do that. And I believe earlier tonight, about a half hour ago, they were playing a clip of a candidate saying that Julian Assange was a hero. And so highlighting this work is super important. Dak Rouleau has been doing this for some time now, and his work is greatly appreciated. And the fact that other independent media is picking up on this as well is wonderful. And I want to give a big shout out to our friends at the Convo Couch for that. We see that, and we're really happy that you guys have been holding these candidates accountable. And Jason, thank you so much for joining us this evening.
All right, thanks, guys. We'll see you guys on the flip. All right, everybody. And you guys can follow them over at Action for Assange. Go give them a subscribe. They are continuing this broadcast right now over there. So Action for Assange, make sure you subscribe. Help them out. Thumbs this video up. Check me out over at rockfin.com where we have exclusive videos 5 days a week now. Stuff you can't see here. Stuff I might get in trouble for on YouTube. Go check it out 3 to 7 times a day here. And if you want to financially support me, I got to GoFundMe. That's how I do it. That's how I'm doing it 3 to 7 times a day. I think this was video 4 or 5 on top of the Rockfin video. So I just want to say thank you guys so much for supporting me. I love you, and I will see you all on the flip.